Hello, and welcome to this tutorial video on how to access, assess, and provide feedback for student work within a Hapara workspace. There are three general ways that you can access student work within a Hapara workspace. The first is through each evidence card here within the appropriate column. The second is in the menu in the top left-hand corner called Activity Summary, and the third is through the individual activity area in the same menu. We're going to go through each of these areas individually. I'll also show you at the end of this video how to access student work through your drive. Now, let's get started. Within each evidence card, we can access the work that has been started, submitted, or assessed within that card. When a work is started within a card, each student has a copy of that piece of work created for them, and we can access that through the card. You can see here we have started work, and we have two documents that have been started by students but not yet submitted. If we hover over the document, it gives us a chronological look at how long it's been since they've accessed the document. And we can click on the document and open it to have a look at where they're at. We can also, if we click under submitted work, take a look at the documents that have specifically been submitted for assessment. Once a student submits a piece of work, they can no longer edit the work until you give it back to them for further feedback and or revisions, or until it's submitted for final assessment. From this page, we can also access and open a document. And what we can do is we can also assess this document with a grade next to it. A grade can be a percentage or it can be a scale. At this point, we can return for edit if we want the student to have a second chance to improve their work before we assess it finally, or we can return for a final, at which point it will be graded and the student will see the assessed mark in their workspace next to their document. We can also look at assessed work, open it up, and we can see the documents that we have assessed with marks that have been matched accordingly. So that's how we can access work within each card. Now let's take a look at the activity summary. To find the activity summary, look in the menu in the top left-hand corner of your screen. When you click on the appropriate button, you'll be opening one of the most powerful windows within your workspace. This window gives you an overview of all work that is currently underway within your workspace and has been submitted for assessment by your students. This window is subcategorized into a number of smaller areas. Let's go through them now. The first is your overdue evidence area. Each evidence card has the ability to have a due date assigned to it. And when students have not submitted their work for assessment by that date, whether they have started the card or not, their information will appear in this window. The next window is the learner activity window to the right of it. This window is a chronological list of all current work that is being done within the workspace. You can see the group and the student and the document that is currently underway. If we scroll down, you'll see the submitted evidence card. Submitted evidence is evidence that has been submitted for assessment. We have a couple of options here. First, if we take a look at the work here by Aria Stark and we highlight that work, we can open it to have a look. We can assess this work either within the document, and then we can head back to our page and we can either return it for edit or we can assess it with a final grade and return final. In this case, let's say that we've provided some feedback to Aria and we're going to return it back to her for edit. When students submit a piece of evidence through an evidence card, they lose editing privileges until you return it to them with feedback or with a final grade attached. Now, let's take a look at this piece of work by Theron Greyjoy. If we take a look at it, and this was submitted for final assessment, we can apply a grade to it. The grade, again, can be on a rubric scale or percentage, whatever works for you. So in this case, we're going to give them a 3 out of 4. And we're going to return that as a final grade. You'll notice that it disappears out of this submitted evidence card. and eventually will appear down in this evidence activity window at the bottom. This is an overview of all evidence that has been submitted and is processed through this workspace. You can open any of these documents from this window, and you can see grades that were attached.
Okay, another math video.
Now, let's take a look at the individual activity page and what it can do for us. So if we click on the individual activity page, this brings up a window for each student outlining their activity within the workspace. Within each window, you can see work that's been returned and marked summatively. You can see work that's been started and submitted but has not yet been finally assessed. And you can see work that's been started has not been submitted. This is a great way to get an overview of each student's progress as they're working through the workspace. A final way you can access student work within a workspace is through your drive. You'll notice that in your drive, when you start building workspaces, a workspace folder will be created for you. If you open that folder, you'll see subsequent subfolders created for every workspace that you have created. If you open the folder, what you'll find is you'll find folders that are shared with the student for that workspace that house each piece of work that they have created. So if we click on, for example, Peter Baelish, this piece of work is currently being worked on by Peter, has not been submitted for final assessment yet. If we click back on that Demo for Schools folder, and we take a look at the overall workspace folder, you'll also see assessed work. If we click on this, it'll actually give us an overview of all assessed work that have been submitted, marked, and returned to the student as a final grade. Again, this is one additional way that you can access student work as students work through their workspace. If you have any further questions, please let us know. Have a great day.